Howdy. Tonight doing day 79. The blog is called Men Are Strong, Women Are Weak, Part 1. Within this point, the men are strong, women are weak. I'm going to walk this through a few blogs based on it's kind of a huge point within myself, how I've defined myself pretty much from childhood, within seeing myself strong and thus pushing myself to be more masculine in my beingness and my way of living, based on identifying the strong ones as male and seeing women as weak. Within this post, I focused more on, defining the male as the strong one. I walked out some self-forgiveness from my childhood, seeing within my family structure how my parents' kind of dynamic was within their relationship, and how they ran the family, and it was based on my mom being more of the caretaker of the kids and disciplinarian, and then my dad being more of the final say of decisions, and kind of the whole family listened to him pretty much. So within this, I always associated the strong one as male, based on just the dynamic my dad played within the family, where he was the dominant one. He was the one who was able to go and fix anything. Their physical structure as males are, big and strong. So just within this, and they're more like dominant and kind of forceful within their beingness, as they're kind of more rough and rugged compared to women and compared to females, where I haven't written out the self-forgiveness on women yet, but within women I see more as weaker in terms of their body structure in general is, slender and more fragile. And not as strong, obviously, physically as men can be. And within the family structure, they're more the caretaker and the nurturer of the kids, and taking care of the kids, and helping the kids when they're sick, and making sure the kids are all right and get their homework done, and all the things mothers do. So seeing this point within the way my mom was, and the way I kind of grew up in my family, is more having my dad be the dominant, final say force of the family, and then my mom being the nurturer. She disciplined us, but it was more like she didn't have like the power in terms of the final say that my dad did. My dad was, wanted us to do something and was, yelling at us or whatever, we'd listen immediately. And my mom, we were more used to her being around her. It's more a fear thing too. Like, we weren't as fearful as my mom than we were as, well, me in general, I'm talking about myself, than my dad. So it's interesting. Again, I'm going to walk this out in many blogs, because there's many dimensions and dimensions, I guess, to this point of how I've defined myself as a woman, and trying to be this strong masculine person, and always looking to my dad to kind of emulate. I've always tried to emulate my dad and be like my dad, because within me and his ways we're very, I relate a lot to him, and we're very similar in what we like to do. But also there's points within myself that are playing out of being a competitor and, wanting to be the best and wanting to be within this point of being, perfect. Like, I wanted to be the best. I wanted everyone to see me as the best. And within myself, I always, within the group I was with, I always competed with others in the group, silently within myself, but I was always competing. And, I would make sure whoever was the best within the group, I would make sure I was in that level, and I was competing with that person to see who I was, like, kind of define myself by that competition point that I was playing within myself. And with early in my life, it was always, I was into, just kid stuff. Like, we always played sports outside in the neighborhood, and I spent a lot of my time with boys playing sports growing up. And, like, even out in the woods or activities that we're doing, always we were competing. Always I was trying to be the best. With my cousins were all boys, most of them that I played with. And, I always saw the point where to be the best, I had to beat the boys. And I always tried to, I always made that standard within myself. As a young kid, this is more when I was a young kid, I had to beat the boys in sports, and then I was the best in my head, in my world. And I didn't even really care about winning, as in, like, winning the game, but within myself, if I wasn't, if I saw myself that I didn't compete my hardest and be the best within myself, and I, like, played not as good as I could have, then I would have been really hard on myself and saw myself as weak. And around myself, I always saw the girls around me as weaker. My sisters were competitive as well and into sports and everything. So it wasn't always a case where I was competing with guys, but I always saw guys as stronger than women, just based on the physical makeup of us, just based on the way they behaved in their demeanor, and just based on pretty much this point of athletics and seeing guys as, even then that standard of girls and guys, how the guys have the pro league and make all the money, make tons of money to play sports, and women, they don't have that level of professional, like, payment and stuff. Like, there are professional women's sports, but not in the sense where they make millions and millions of dollars. So also it's a societal point where I have defined men and women by weak and strong, based on how society sees men and women. So this blog was kind of not very specific and direct, but it went over some points within this dimension. And basically within this blog, I walked out more my childhood of seeing my seeing my mom and dad based on this weak, strong point. Did some self-forgiveness on that. Realizing that obviously we're not defined by our physical makeup, our sex. This polarity plate of weak, strong within men and women, but we're defined by who we are within ourselves and how we live towards life and with life, within the principles of what life is, equal and one. Do we respect life? Do we give life as we'd like to receive life? do we give to others as we would like to receive? So, changing the dynamic more of seeing life in this point of weak, strong within the sexes, and just seeing life in equality and within this point of who we are as equal one as life. So I want to call it a night here, and we'll continue on this point tomorrow. Thanks for listening.